There's a story about how my then best friend Arne and I spent nearly every day buried in QBASIC. It was the early 90s. We both had PCs with a 386 Intel processor, though Arne acquired a 486 soon after that. It even had a turbo key, I guess. I'm not sure about that. And back then, we felt like we were discovering electricity. After we both got our first sound cards, primitive 8-bit mono devices, we realized we could actually network with them through radio, using cheap walkie-talkies. I'm 42 now, and the details are fuzzy, but I remember us devouring QBASIC articles from the computer magazines we shared. Somehow, we managed to access the sound card functions inside our programs. Since we were also taking the same piano classes, we ended up writing a small program that turned musical tones into characters. Basically a DIY acoustic coupler, even though we had never seen one in real life and had no access to actual modems. We even used cheap headphones as microphones. They work surprisingly well if you just jam them into the mic port. And suddenly, we had a wireless chat. He lived what, to child me, felt impossibly far away, about 1.5 kilometers across the flat countryside of northern Germany. I don't remember the brand or specs of those walkie-talkies, but somehow they worked across that distance. Not much stood between our houses except fields and a few hedges. We escalated quickly. That entire summer vacation we chatted daily, visited each other constantly, and eventually even modified the classic gorilla.bas game to include our brand new Wi-Fi feature, so we could play online multiplayer. To this day, I can't fathom how absurd and magical that summer really was. The comic book summer. The next year, we switched hobbies entirely and made a comic magazine called Bob and Mary. I did the drawings, Arne created the puzzles. We scraped together our pocket money and went to our local shopkeeper, Nettie, who had a photocopier. We asked how much it would cost to copy our 20-page magazine 10 times, and whether she might sell it in her store. She said something like 10 Pfennig per page. That meant 2 Deutschmark per issue. We had saved 20. We could afford it, but we wouldn't earn a single Pfennig. Since we were kids, we simply asked her what she thought we should do. Nettie smiled and said, "All right, boys, you can do it for half the price, but only if you promise there'll be another issue." We agreed immediately, and she didn't put Bob and Mary on the regular magazine shelves. She placed all 10 copies directly on her counter. They sold out the same day. Now we were stressed. We spent the rest of the summer creating more issues. Over the next 2 years, we released around 5, maybe 6. Each one sold more copies than the last. Parents would buy them for their kids, and Nettie always told us they loved them. By the end, we earned maybe 20 Deutschmark in total, but the experience itself was priceless. The final summer. Then came our final summer as friends, the summer we broke up. Arne had gotten a keychain full of little sci-fi sound effects, clearly bootleg Star Wars and Star Trek. I, meanwhile, had inherited a small treasure trove of audio gear from my grandpa, aunt, and uncle. A Super 8 projector with lots of reels, a record player, and a tiny mono tape recorder. Our plan was simple: We would spend 2 weeks at each other's houses, making music and audio dramas. Between sessions, we hosted cinema afternoons for the neighborhood kids. We made popcorn, arranged chairs, and screened my silent Super 8 reels. This was the pre-YouTube era. The flickering film felt like magic. And we did record things. We made Beatles covers with ridiculous German lyrics. When I'm 64 became Leberwurst vom Schwein. Then we created silly audio dramas, mostly parodies of Star Wars and Star Trek. Some were genuinely funny, and we listened to them constantly. But our friendship didn't survive week 2. We had always been close, but not this close. We started and ended every day together with no breaks. 2 nerdy kids, both introverted in our own way, suddenly living on top of each other. It was too intense. By the end of week 2, Arne's parents picked him up, and there would be no child exchange in the other direction. That was it. No fight, no drama. Just 2 boys realizing they needed space.